Good evening, everybody. This is Mimi Taylor Hendricks. I am the current board president of SHED, Sustainable Housing and Equitable Development here in University City, where we work with seniors, retired, disabled veterans, people who need assistance with minor home repair. And within the last 15 years, we began to expand our mission here in University City. We are building a home. It will be sold this late spring to a low to moderate income family. And we have developed this home ownership webinar series. We wanted to really work with folks to give them an idea of what it might take to get into home ownership. Home ownership is still one of the pillars of the American dream. It will provide many people, with the largest asset they may ever own. And it is an asset that grows in value over time. So it is truly an appreciable asset. And it is one that you can pass on to your children so that they then start their lives with a very valuable asset as well. So we've been involved in home repair funding, home maintenance, affordable housing development, community planning, and workforce development through our high school. So today we're going to go back to the basics. We're going to do the first one today on budgeting. Future webinar topics include in June, home repair loans. In August, it'll be protecting that real estate asset. That's going to be very important, especially if you want to pass it on to your children. And then the last one in October, we're going to kind of do something for home buyers, current homeowners as well. Home inspections and appraisals. What's the difference? What is their function? Okay, so let's start tonight with Tim Clavin. He is the Financial Wellness Director for St. Louis Community Credit Union. And he is the one that handles a lot of the information for the members of the credit union who want to get into buying a home. So budgeting is a key function of that, both for our everyday living in terms of, I always call it telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. But also he's going to take a look at what kinds of things might be necessary when budgeting, when you're getting ready to purchase your first home. Okay, so at this, I'd like to turn it over to Tim Clavin. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Mimi. Appreciate the introduction. So yeah, I'm Tim Clavin. I work with St. Louis Community Credit Union, and we're just going to go over some spending basics and some budgeting basics, but also tie in how to apply that to a home purchase. How do you prepare for that? So to get to that point, you got to start at the foundation, just like in a good home. If you don't have a good foundation, then that home's going to be a little wobbly, offset. Same thing goes for a budget. So I hope you guys learn a lot, ask questions. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. And if you can't see it, just let me know, but it should be good to go. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first question I ask people, what is a spending plan? So there might be a lot of different answers, and a lot of them are acceptable, but the one that we go with is a spending plan is a guide you create to help you decide how to spend your money. So a lot of people are like, where's my money going? I don't understand. Like, I know I get direct deposit, I get two a month or every other week or weekly, but it just seems to spend itself. So we had this misconception of like, my money, it just keeps spending itself. I don't have control over it. Well, creating a spending plan helps you gain control of your finances, and that's what you really need. It's you need to figure out where your money is going, and then where do you want it to go? Where do you need it to go? So those are the big things of a spending plan. If you had to like, sum it up in a 10-second blurb or a 30-second blurb, it's a guide you create to help you decide how you spend your money instead of letting it controlling you. And that's going to apply to homes and home purchases as well. It's not just for your everyday stuff. But some key reasons for a spending plan. One is to keep track of your money. So that's probably the biggest one, the basic ones. Just making sure your money's coming in and it's taking care of your expenses. So rent, student loans, car payment, insurance, things like that, just to keep track of your money to make sure that nothing's getting missed and you're not getting behind on anything. So you're not missing late payments. And if you do have payments of 30 days or more that are late, then that's going to affect your credit. So there's a lot of good reasons for, doing a spending plan and creating one. Another one is gain control of your finances and life. So a lot of times people, if they're living paycheck to paycheck or overdraft to overdraft, that's very stressful and that's a very, tough situation. So you're just feeling like you don't have any control. So at least by doing spending plans and tracking your money, it gives you some ease of that. It may not be the income you want. You have to work for a higher income if that's part of your goal, but just understanding where you're at and what your expenses are can take some stress out of your life. And stress can really affect you in a lot of negative ways. Another reason is to reduce and avoid debts. So reduce, paying down student loans, paying down that car loan, and avoid debts. That's just making sure things don't fall through the cracks and like so it doesn't show up as collection on your credit report. And then that affects your credit score, and then that's going to get you a higher interest rate and you pay more for something you should be paying less for. So again, those are some good reasons. Next one is prepare for large and surprise expenses, aka a large expense would be maybe buying a home. I don't know, and some other things, but also surprise expenses. That's more of the emergency fund, and then you can plan that into your budget. But that's just, in case something pops up, or if you're driving the St. Louis streets and your car hits one of the many, many potholes and you need a new tire, you already have some money set aside for that expense. A couple more reasons to accomplish your financial goals. I'm sure a lot of you want to retire or travel or buy a home, buy a new vehicle, things like that. So having a spending plan and creating a good one that you stick to and being accountable for is going to help you reach those goals. And the last one is aligning spending with values and goals. So it's like, where do I want my money to go into? So those are the big questions. Like, yeah, I want to buy a home. So when I pay it off, that's something I own. It's an asset. I can sell it when I'm older if I need to, or just keep it, retain it. So, what do you want your money to do for you? Do you want your money to take care of you when we're older? Of course, we want our money to help our family and friends, maybe to put us in a secure spot when, maybe our family and friends aren't there anymore for whatever reason, and it's just you. So, you want your money to help you plan your present and future. So, these are some reasons for a spending plan. And like I said, including a home purchase. And that's why we're here today to learn a little bit more how spending plans work into a home purchase. So just some quick information about just the housing market here. So in 2024, the St. Louis housing market saw a median sales price of around $223,593, and that was December. So that was up a little bit from the previous year, with the median price per square foot at $163. And I got those stats from Steadily and Rocket Mortgage. So that's
Mhm.
just, it's not the average, but that's like in a scale of 1 to 100, that's the middle. So there's going to be homes lower for that price and homes way more than that price. Now, there's a lot of determining factors, but maybe just to set yourself up with a good budget would be, well, maybe I'll plan for this one because I'm, planning for, maybe something just under that. But right now it's a seller's market. So a lot of people are overpaying for houses right now. So even with your budget, you may have to kick it up, 5,000, 10,000, if you really want to get that, that home that you're looking for. And how do you go about buying a house? It's so complicated and there's many moving parts to it. But one of the big aspects of a home purchase is creating a spending plan. And again, a spending plan is a guide you create to help how do you decide to spend your money. So you can have your spending plan for your, week to week, month to month transactions. And then you can have a separate one for, I'm buying a house later this year. I'm buying a house in 2 years, whatever your game plan is. You can have multiple things going on. So you should have your weekly spending plan or monthly one, and then put in like, well, I'm going to say I have to buy a home. Well, that needs to be added into your spending plan. And not just any spending plan, but a smart spending plan. And I'll get to the smart here later in a couple of slides. So hopefully you remember that. And just some other information you need to know before buying. So one, you need to calculate your budget. So you need to figure out what you can afford and, it's just for mortgages, it's for a down payment. Like you need to figure out your budget. We all want to live in, the big nice houses, but is that something realistic for you? So you need to figure out your budget first before just putting in any offers and making sure you're not spending too much or something that you don't have. And there's mortgage calculators out there that can help
Where?
you.
Where do I find a mortgage calculator?
Oh, that's a good question. So we have them on our website at stlouiscommunity.com or slccu.com, but also you can just Google in a mortgage calculator and then you type in the information. So like, if you're thinking around 200,000 is your budget, you
Mm.
type that in and your income and some other factors, and then that would help you like this is what you need maybe for a down payment and closing. So it would give you some options about where to start with your budget. Another reason to do a budget here is a saving down for a down payment. Now there are a lot of down payment assistance programs with a lot of different, banks and financial institutions for first time buying, or if it's your second or third or fourth time, there is a lot of down payment assistance. But if you don't qualify for that, then you'd still need to save for that. And usually that's around, 15 to 20% on the high end. Now, if you get a good program, you can be low as 3 or 5%. So that's when you're looking for a good realtor or when you start doing this process, that would be something that you need to voice your opinion on and be like, I would like to save money where I can. And then hopefully that realtor or, that loan applicant mortgage processing person will help you out with that. So definitely speak up for like ways that you can save money within buying the home. And then the last one would be if let's say you've saved up enough money, but you don't know your credit score, you need to get your credits checked. So you can do that with annualcreditreport.com, and that will see your credit reports, or you can meet up with a financial coach. Here at St. Louis Community Credit Union, we offer soft pulls of credit, so it's not a hard hit on your report, so it doesn't, hurt your credit. And also, we can review it because I'm not a loan mortgage person. I'm not in the lending team, so it's not tied to any application, but it's for educational purposes. You're trying to figure out where you are, where you need to go to get, approved for a mortgage, or maybe you're going to get approved, but you don't have the best rate because your credit's just okay. So really knowing your credit is very important before you put in that application so you're not set up for failure. Because if you have all the money in the world, but your credit's at 550, that's going to be tough. So you need to kind of know some of these things before you start on that path. And here are some hidden costs. I say hidden because, they're not really hidden, but a lot of people say, oh, I just, the mortgage, the mortgage, the mortgage. Well, there's going to be property taxes. There's going to be maintenance and repairs on the home once you have it, applying for placement, stoves, refrigerators, things like that. And unfortunately, they're making them more high tech, which makes them more expensive.
Mhm, mhm.
For some, homeowner insurance. So first, if that's not included in your mortgage payment already, and then also moving costs, furniture, decor. Let's say you need to replace all the ceiling fans or something of that nature, replace the HVAC unit, things like that. And also just the utilities on a home. So as maybe if you're going from renting to home ownership, renting isn't as bad on utilities because maybe you're just taking care of a couple of rooms in a building. Or if you're in a four-family flat, you're just taking care of one of the four units. So utilities isn't bad, but once you get to a home that's maybe it's bigger, twice as big as your apartment, that's going to be more space. So that's just going to be more on the bills each month. So these are just some, and there's more, but these are just some of the hidden costs of ownership. So when you're doing your spending plan, calculate that into maybe your post, home buying plan. It's like, okay, I got the mortgage, I got the house. This is great. Now, how do I keep the house? That's the big thing. So I want you to get into a house, but I also want you to keep it. That might even be bigger. So you need to set yourself up for success by kind of listing these things and also incorporating them into your budget, into your spending plan. Because if you don't, take care of these or prepare for them, bills may start getting late or, the taxes may be more and more, utilities if you get behind on. I just don't want anyone getting their house of their dreams and then losing it within the first year or two. So this is a big part of home ownership as well.
Those are questions too that
Yeah.
you probably can ask either the real estate agent or the people who are selling their home to get an
Hmm.
idea of what the costs were. So you
Yes,
can
that's a
really,
great idea.
okay.
Yeah, so when you're in this process, ask as many questions as you can, And again, I'm not even the home mortgage expert, but I'm the spending plan, I'm the financial wellness guy, but I want to get you to that point where I can hand you off to that realtor and other, aspects of the team to get you into that home. Ask all these questions. There's not a dumb question. So just to make sure that every, rock is overturned and you're making sure you know or have all the information available to make a good decision. And that's all we want to do is like giving you enough of the information, all the information, so you can make a very important decision, but also a smart one. And here are just some non-financial factors. The neighborhood that you want to move into. Are you moving, 40 minutes away from a place where you liked, or is there you have some friends or family in a certain neighborhood that you want to move into? Also, amenities close by. Is there maybe a workout facility or kind of a community center or things called restaurants, things like that, the theater? So you have to kind of put that into your decision. Also, consider your commute. Or if you're moving a long way from your work, then that's going to be gas every day, to and from every day, and that's going to add up. So consider that when you're making this decision of, where to buy your forever home. And then also schools, if you have children or if you plan on having children, if you get a home that in 5, 7, 10 years that you eventually want to send your kids to a good school district. So again, these are just some non-financial factors that you need to think of. And then again, there's more. So you keep asking questions with your realtor, and maybe there's something missing here, but that's something you can ask them once you're in that process. So it's not even just the financial factors going into a decision, but where do I want to live? Where do I feel most comfortable at? Is it in, South City? Is it Central West End? Is it, in, I don't know, any part of St. Louis County, things like that. So you just need to figure out where you kind of want to move and then go from there. All right, so kind of now we're getting back into the spending plan, the nuts and bolts. So again, learning this information can help you go put that, spending plan into action for your home ownership. So just some tips right now, plan according to what your income is now. So if you're getting a promotion here in a few weeks or a month, that's great, but you're not getting that money yet. Or let's say you work a lot more during the summer, fall months, that's you'll be, bringing in more income, that's great. Don't plan on that as of right now. Whatever your income is now, that's what you need to calculate your budget on, but also at the same time plan ahead for 6 months. So that might not may mean a budget for 6 months, but like, all right, well, I need to get an oil change in 4 months. My your parents' anniversary is in 6 months to get a gift, or you're going on a family vacation in 6 months. So just try to plan ahead for certain big things. So again, plan what your income is now, but also plan ahead so nothing surprises you. Again, maybe you're just planning for an emergency, so put money into your emergency fund for 6 months. Let's, hopefully nothing happens and that money just stays there and it grows, but plan for that so that way it's already in your budget. This gives you a picture of where you're headed. So that's a smart way to kind of, judge yourself to be in case you need a course correct. Also include, this is a big one, include some spending money or fun money because it's not realistic if you don't put that in your budget. So, you might be able to work, go to bed, pay bills, work, go to bed, pay bills, save for a couple weeks, and that's great. But at some point, the dam's going to crack and then you just won't be able to keep that up. So it's not realistic to have just no fun at all or hobbies. Maybe it's not fun money, but hobbies, or if you like seeing movies, hanging with friends, catching up with friends at Starbucks or a coffee shop or a cafe. Include that into your budget, but you do have to have a limit. It doesn't mean it's unlimited. So once you run out of your, let's say, $200 of fun money for the month, you say, hey, that's it for me until next month. Or you just come and hang, but not buy anything. And that's setting boundaries. So if your friends have a problem with it, then that's on them. But if they're really your friends, then they'll support you in that decision. Another one is set money aside for maintenance and all major items and keep this money separate. So if let's say you have a home, they say you're supposed to save 1% of the home's value every year for like maintenance costs, just upkeep of the home. But if you're not having a home, this would be more like an emergency fund. So this would be you need your emergency fund over here and then a long-term savings over here. So they say 3 to 6 months of expenses for your emergency fund, and then once you hit that over here, every other savings type of goal needs to go in this separate savings account. It could be at the same financial institution or it could be a different one. But if you're, first I would say work on that, emergency fund. And then once you hit your goal, then go for something with higher yield, something with higher interest so you can make more money off that savings. And the last one is pay yourself first. So that's make sure you save money. So don't just spend everything. You need to pay yourself first. So right when that direct deposit comes, you're, taking $50 or you and putting that in your savings. You're taking $100, whatever you can afford. Maybe it's only $10 in the beginning, and that's fine. You got to start where you're at. You may have friends and family who are up here and you're trying to get there, but hey, you can't compare yourself with others. That's just going to trip you up and make you cause mistakes. You just have to stay in your lane and be like, hey, this is my path. I'm going to work on it. I'm going to get that 5 to 10 and then 10 to 15 and then 15 to 20, have that mentality. So you need to pay yourself first. I would say that's the biggest thing. If you can start that early in life, that way when you're older as an adult, or even if you're a young adult now, learn this habit. So that way you have that habit built in and be like, oh, I get money, I'm saving a good portion of it. Or I get money, I need to save for this or for that. So again, pay yourself first. Uh-oh, the SMART goals, they're back. So this is what I mean by SMART goals. And actually, this is proven too. Like stats have shown by doing the SMART goal method that you're more likely to reach your goal or to follow through. And I'll say that's even the bigger part is following through and being accountable. It's okay to, go through something and not, reach the mountaintop, but it's important that you go through the journey. So maybe you don't, win the race, but you finish the race. So to set a good goal, you have to be specific about something. So if you're let's say trying to save for a home. I want to save a lot of money for my home purchase. Well, that's a good goal, but it's kind of vague. So maybe it's like, hey, I need to save, I feel comfortable saving $5,000 this year for my home purchase. And maybe that's a little bit down payment, maybe that's closing, but that's a certain amount. So, and hopefully that's realistic as well. We'll get to R here in a second, but be specific. M
Yeah,
is
mine
measurable.
is I want to lose weight.
I want to lose weight. Yeah. Don't we all? And this
Yeah,
applies more to more than just finances, but
yeah,
for
it
personal
does.
goals, for family, for
Mhm.
anything in life. And it's okay to have yourself be accountable. It's like, hand up accountability. If I messed up or I got off track, realize it. Sometimes we like to put our head in the sand or kick the can down the road and be like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll figure that out later. But, sometimes later comes sooner than you think.
Mhm.
And this is again, it's not a punishing thing. It's not trying to make anyone feel bad. It's just, but you need to know where you're at so you know where you want to go. So S is specific, M is measurable. So what does that mean? Well, I'm measuring it by I'm saving, $150 a week from my paycheck, and I check every week to make sure that I have enough money for my spending plan, for my monthly expenses, and then also like, all right, here's the money I'm saving for my home purchase. So I'm measuring that by looking at my statements, by looking at the banking app on your phone. A is adjustable. So that's something, maybe you're halfway through the year and like, boom, you do hit a pothole and both tires are gone and you got to get replaced and you got to get brakes, and then boom, that's $750. So you got to take that money that you're saving for this, but you have money saved up, which is good. So you don't have to come out of your budget or you don't have to put it on a credit card and reach your limit there and get overextended. But then you have to be more, realistic and adjust. Like, well, if my goal was 5,000, I just had to spend $800 on car repair. Maybe my new goal is 4,200, or maybe my new goal is 4,000. So you got to be willing to adjust and just be like, oh, well, I'll never reach 5,000, so now I'll give up. That's not the good attitude to have. So you got to be, able to adjust, and that's anything in life, not just finances, but like, your love life, your education, everything. It's like you got to be able to adjust sometimes. And R is realistic. So this is realistic. Is 5K, realistic? I think in this scenario it is. But let's say you're a kid and your first time summer job, and like, oh, I want to save $10,000 this summer. Well, it's your first summer job and you only get paid 9.50 an hour. So that's not a realistic goal. So make sure you're setting yourself up for success by making it realistic. Is 5,000 too much? Well, maybe your realistic goal is 3,000. Again, don't compare to someone else's just because someone else has that four-bedroom home already with the three baths and the big backyard and everything, which is great. If that's a friend or family, I'm happy for them. But I have to be realistic with my own wants and goals and have to make sure I'm staying on my path. And then T is time-based. So what's time? It's this year. I'm trying to save $5,000 for a home purchase in this year. So again, using the SMART goals, it may sound corny and it's not the flashiest thing, but it will hold yourself accountable and it will just help you come up with a better goal. And that's again, not just in finances, but in life. So again, it's okay to be accountable. It's okay. Let's say you go throughout the year and you only reach 4,200 and there was no accident. And so you didn't reach your 5 grand goal, but you saved $4,200, which is still something really cool and something to celebrate. That's probably more money you would have saved if you would have just done nothing of the SMART goals and just saying, well, yeah, I'll save some money here and there and I'll be fine by the end of the year. You're not holding yourself accountable. You're not tying it to anything tangible that you can hold in your hands and be like, all right, so I am a little behind on my goal. I need to step it up, or I'm ahead of my goal. Maybe I might get more than 5,000. So again, the SMART goal method, it might be a little corny, but it really does prove in the results. And you can have different goals going on. So a good short-term goal would be working on your budget. So I need to figure out where my money is coming from, like all your income coming in, and then where's my money going and where do I need it to go? You may not perfect your budget in the first month you try it. So it's going to take some trial and error. So that's a good short-term goal. Another intermediate goal is, 1 to 5 years. That could be, saving emergency fund, saving for that, and also, down payment for a house. Long-term goal, 5 or more years, that could be investing. Maybe for 5 or more years, that could be a home purchase. I'm not saying you have to wait that long or save that long for home purchase, but we're all different. So some people may be further ahead in that process than others. So maybe your intermediate goal is 2 years on buying a home. Some others might be like 7 years on buying a home. It just depending where you're at. Now, there are all a lot of good programs out there that can help that, dream become a reality more quickly, but you still have to have that good foundation in. So again, you can have different goals going on. So a good short-term goal is your monthly budget, and then the intermediate long-term is like that saving for the home, saving for that big home purchase that you want to make here. So again, you can have multiple things going on at once, but probably starting with a budget is easiest. So, and also the most important because that leads into the other big goals that you want in life. And there's a lot of different budgeting methods, but basically they're all the same in the essence of the kind of the nuts and bolts, the steps for a successful spending plan. First, you got to take all your expenses. So everything that you're paying for, anything, if you're giving money to friends and family, that counts as expense. If you're donating money to church, that's an expense. Wherever money is leaving your account, consider that an expense. Then the next step is boom, list all your income. So if it's just from your employer, if you have Social Security, if there's some type of benefit you receive, if you get money from your grandma on your birthday for a month, I don't know, whatever income you get, that needs to be put into your spending plan. And these are the different types of transactions and expenses that someone would have in their spending plan. So we all know the big ones. So those are the hard, expenses. So rent or mortgage, loan payments, car insurance, car payments, maybe subscription services, cable, things like that. We know that's coming, that's $500 and it's taken out the fifth of every month. We all know the big ones. Now, this next ones are the ones where there's the wiggle room. This is where we should track more, but we think we do. And those are the soft and variable transactions. So that's groceries, utilities, gas, but that's also restaurants, that's your hobbies, that's going to the movies, that's going to Starbucks, that's Target, Amazon Prime, things like that. And we know we're doing the purchase in the moment. But again, if you're not tracking that, you just assume like, oh, I only went to Target once and it was for like I only spent like 40 bucks. Great. Well, when you look at your statement in that month and you went to Target 3 times and in total you spent 120 bucks and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that. Again, in the moment, you went to Target, but you can't get that big picture view if you don't review your statements. And we'll get that into that in the next slide. But the variable transaction, that's where you're going to find your wiggle room to save or reallocate funds. And then the last one is periodic and occasional. So like birthdays, birthdays are always the same. No one's birthday changes, the holidays are always around the same season, anniversaries, things like that. Those are the periodic or ones you can plan long term for, or like 6 months and ahead. So birthday gifts, maybe for like when I was younger, we would go to Target and get school clothes, like in, August. So every time around August or July, we'd have to get new school clothes. So something like that you can plan ahead for. Or again, you need to get your oil changed a couple times a year, 6 months, every 6 months, basically. You can plan for that ahead. But again, the soft and variable transaction, that's where you're going to find the money of like, oh, this is if I actually, stick to my budget and don't spend this, I would have an extra $300 to use. It doesn't mean you're going to be pocketing that, but it's like, where can I redirect that? It's reallocating your resources. So again, you think oh, I went out a couple times this month, but you're not tracking it. So again, the biggest thing you can do to help yourself is to look at your statements. So we call it the highlighter game. So you get all our, marker game, whatever. So you get out your markers and then red is boom, that's rent and mortgage if you have a home. Blue is, oh, that's my car payment and car insurance. So you're going through your statement. And again, the hard transactions you're going to know pretty easily. Those are the big ones, the one that, oh, I can't be late on those. So if you're doing a good job or at least a decent job with the budget, those should be paid. but it's going to be those soft ones, the groceries, eating out, gas and transportation, hobbies, clothing. If you have children, child expenses, is that toys? Is that just entertainment? Is that your time driving places? That could be gas. And then there's other factors. So going through your statements, it's going to tell you where your money's going. And again, that's the biggest thing I want you to take away here is one of the biggest things is where's my money going? And then coming up with the where do I need my money to go? Well, I need my money to pay these bills. I need my money to build up my emergency fund. I need my money to save for this down payment for a mortgage here. So again, those soft and variable transactions, that's where you're going to find that extra funds to be like, oh, well, I'm spending $200 a month on Target. If I cut that down to 100, what am I going to do with that extra $100 now? So you can put that into emergency savings or again, to putting that into a home purchase. So again, it might not be extra money, but it's better. Where can I reallocate these funds for a more important need? And this is help. So this is a weekly calendar, so Sunday through Saturday. So this may help you. You get paid on the first and the 15th, or if you get paid every other week, and then you have certain bills coming out on the third Monday of every month and the second Thursday. So this, if something you're a visual person, something like this you can find on the web and just type in empty calendar, weekly calendar. You can print that out, or just if you're more of an online person or computer or laptop on your phone, you can just put this on Excel or something like that, and then just have it on your phone or have it on your laptop. And the next one is a yearly one. So this is January through December. So this would be more for like, oil changes, birthdays, anniversaries, taxes, gifts, things like that. So you can kind of plan for some of that stuff during the year. So nothing is a surprise. So everyone's like, oh, the holidays, it sneaked up on us again, which is like, well, they never really changed. So how do, that expression? It just seems like that, or at least we tell ourselves that. So again, this is if you're more of a visual person, again, you can just type in empty monthly calendar on Google or whatever your search engine is, and then you can print this out or keep this on your phone or laptop. So again, it sounds simple, but again, it's holding yourself accountable and it's a tangible thing that you're either printing out and writing on, or if you're putting in a Word document or Excel and you're like putting in effort, you're putting in the transactions or the expenses that will happen during the year, and then you check that. If you do it on your laptop, you can put a reminder on your laptop to check every 3 weeks just to make sure, hey, it's January, so everything's going well. The next big purchase or is March when I have to do an oil change. So again, anything that's going to keep you accountable is something that's going to help you. And again, maybe when that oil change comes up in March or April, let's say you only have 70% of that money saved already. Well, that's great. That means you only have to take 30% out of your budget. So if you have some, even if it's not all of it saved up, you're still ahead of the game there. So even if it's just 10% of that purchase, that's more than you would be if you didn't save anything. So again,
Mhm.
something you can plan for and adjust for and like build off these things so it's not taking away from your budget. All right, so after you do that, then you have to balance your income at expenses.
Yeah.
So there's really only two outcomes here. One is you have, after you do that, you have extra income. So all your expenses are being met. And then what do I do with the extra income? So if you're already paying yourself, you're building an emergency fund, you're putting money towards a home purchase, that's great. Now, what do you want to do with that extra $150 you have? Do you want to pay off a debt quicker? Do you want to build up that emergency fund quicker? Or, you have choices, you have options. The flip side is, well, if you have more expenses than your income. So, that's a conversation of like, well, do I need to bring more income in? That's a different conversation of maybe promotion or getting a new job or a side hustle. Or more realistically is you need to go through your statements. So everyone says like, oh, I have more expenses than my income. Well, what are your expenses actually? Again, are they a lot of want expenses? That's Target, that's Amazon Prime, that's maybe going to restaurants, that's fast food. Those are expenses, but those are wants. You need to focus on your need expenses, like I need to pay my gas bill, I need to pay my car payment, I need to do. So focus on those expenses first. And then when you're going through your statement, a lot of those are going to be the soft and variable ones where you're like, wow, I only thought I spent $50 that month for Amazon, but I spent 150. So you're already, wrong. You're already $100 in the hole. And that's just one thing. So again, I would say if you're having more expenses than income, look at your statement because it's going to tell you where your money is going. And then again, that's where you need to reallocate some things. And that's where you maybe need to drop some of the subscriptions, or, maybe you can't go out every week. You have to do every other weekend, or maybe it's just once a month, or maybe you have to go with even a more stricter kind of like 6 month, 8 month kind of spending plan to get yourself back on track. So again, you have to put the work in, but finding out where your money is going, that's the biggest key to at least getting down that path. And then once you do that, so after you balance your income expenses, we just, like I said, you evaluate and adjust. And some of the things you need to think about when you're evaluating and adjusting, maybe are you setting, money aside for savings? Again, are you even paying yourself first? Because if you're not, then that's something you need to put into your spending plan right away. Where are you spending more or less at? Is it certain time of the month? Is it certain, you know, businesses? Maybe something you should avoid, like maybe you should only go to Target once a month, or if it's Amazon Prime, maybe you shouldn't order online, for a month or two, things of that nature. Is there things that, certain time of the month, like, oh, I had a stressful day at work and then, oh, I just spent $150 that same day. Is that a coincidence or correlation? So these are some of the questions you need to ask yourself. And also, how close are to your goals? Again, if you're setting a SMART goal and you're like, well, I'm like 3 months behind, what do I need to do? Well, you need to go through your budget. You need to go through your, statements and get back on track and be like, well, I need to be accountable. I spent way too much money on fast food, on Uber Eats, or dining out, or whatever your hobby is, whatever that transaction is. You just need to say, hand up, my bad, own it, but then move on, learn from it. So that way, in the next week, the next month, you're actually saving that money. You're actually going through on the spending plan that you created. So again, it's not like that I want you to feel bad or feel like, defeated, but you just need to know where your money is going. You need to know how to change that if your money's going to inappropriate places. And again, it's you don't just kick that can down the road or keep your head in the sand. You want to like, hey, I'm here for it. It may be kind of ugly in the first month or two, or even the first 6 months, but after that, those small steps, you turn around, you're going to walk a long way. So again, it may be small, and maybe, you're not feeling like, oh, I don't have my $10,000 yet, but you'll get there, but you just have to be accountable and you got to be able to adjust on the fly. Some variable income. This is if you have seasonal employment. So, if you like, let's say you have a summer job, summer fall job, you can still work on a budget. But again, if you have a seasonal employment, let's say a lot of your income is in the summer and fall months, then you need to do extra savings then because you're going to be working less in the winter and the spring. So that's, plan what your income is now. So when you're in that season, when you're working a lot more, you need to be like, well, I need to save even more because once winter comes along, then I need to, I'm going to be working less. So I'll be bringing less income, but you'll still be okay because you've saved more in those months where you were bringing more income in. All right, and here are some different spending plan methods. So the first one is the zero-based budget. So that's for tracking consistent income and expenses. This one it's probably the toughest, but also might be the most beneficial. So think of it as basically an Excel sheet and you're working your way to zero. It doesn't mean you have $0. It just means you plan for your money. So let's say you bring in, $3,000 a month in income. And then you start up here and then you subtract, rent is 500, car payment and car insurance is 400, and then groceries is 200, health insurance is through 30 bucks, and you work all your way down to zero. And that includes, fund money, that includes emergency savings, that includes for down payment of a home, and that's your goal. So that includes everything. So that way, even, for rainy day fund. So nothing should surprise you in this method because you're already taking care of it, even though you don't know what's going to happen yet. So again, it's not that you have zero funds or zero money, but you're working all the way down so your money has a job for everything. So this one, again, I wouldn't start with this one. This is a good one to work your way up to because again, it's a little more time consuming and it's a little, I wouldn't say complicated, but it is time consuming and you have to be pretty accountable. But again, it's going to show you where all your money is going and where you need it to go and how to track it. So the zero-based budget is probably the one that I would say that's probably the most beneficial if you can get there. The next one is pay yourself first budget. So this one is prioritizing savings and debt repayment. So again, this might be is like you don't have an emergency savings at all. Well, okay. So that's going to be my main thing for the next 6 months is putting in $100 from each paycheck to build up an emergency savings and paying down debt. So maybe in this one, you don't have a lot of fun money or disposable money in for 3 months or for 6 months because you're focusing on building that savings up quickly and paying off that debt. So this one, a lot of the times I would say this one is for beginners or maybe some teenagers. If they don't have a lot of expenses, it's like boom, you can save up a lot of money if you don't have a lot of expenses going on. But if you do have some debt to take care of, again, I would say the fun money is probably what's going to be, the victim in this one. So if you're prioritizing savings and debt repayment. The envelope system. So this was more of an old school one, but there's virtual envelope system now, but this one is making your spending more disciplined and kind of also visual. So this would be like actually putting money in an envelope. So this one is rent and you put $500 in this envelope, car and car insurance, 400 in this envelope or buckets or whatever visual thing you want to do. And then once it's time to pay that expense, you take the money out and you make the payment and then you refill that envelope. So again, this was more of a when cash was king kind of way of budgeting, but there's virtual envelopes as well now, or virtual, envelope systems now that still like basically you make sure the money's in that envelope before you make that payment. The 50/30/20 budget, this one categorizes needs over wants. So 50% is needs. So let's say out of a dollar, 50 cents of every dollar goes towards needs. So that's bills, utilities, things like that. 30%, that would be excuse me. So that would be the 20% is savings and then 30% is wants. I like to switch the 30 and the 20. I would say wants should be 20 and then 30 should be savings. So every dollar you bring in, 30 cents, you're saving. And that goes towards long-term savings. That could be retirement. That could be emergency funds. Just savings in itself. There's lots of different types of savings. So again, in this 50/30/20 budgeting method, it does categorize needs over wants and savings over wants. And the no budget, I threw this one in. This is kind of like what we all do. It's like the no budget, lowering, avoiding debt. This is where, you check your account when your deposit comes in, and then check. It's like after a big purchase or expense, and you're just noting that like, all right, the money's been taken out, so that's been paid, but you're not really tracking anything. So it's good at lowering and avoiding debt, but it's not really good at saving or holding yourself accountable or like it's kind of just keeping like a plateau. So I just put that one in there because that's a lot of the times everyone's on the no budget. So again, I would just be so if we want to work our way up, I would work your way up to the 50/30/20. And then the one I would say that zero-based budget is the big one. That's the one that's going to hold you accountable and tell you where all your money is going and where you need it to go. And again, here's just a model of the 50/30/20. So 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings. Again, I think you can flip the savings and the wants. I think you can put savings at 30 and wants at 20. And again, this is adjustable. So maybe for a few months you need to put the needs at 50% and savings at like 40% and be like, hey, I'm not going out to restaurants. I'm not seeing movies. I gotta pay off this debt. I have to build up my emergency savings. So again, you control the ratios. This is just a common method, a popular method, but you can, control the 50/30/20 method. Here's another budgeting guideline. So this one is just maybe more of a nuts and bolts if you're like not really wanting to try any of those methods. This one is just dividing the pie into different categories. So like housing is 35%. So that could be mortgage, slash rent, utilities, insurance, maintenance. And the 10% is savings. So that's make sure you have your emergency savings. That could be making sure once you have your emergency savings, building up for that down payment on the home. Transportation, that's, a lot of people, have their own vehicles. So that's car payment, insurance, maintenance, and taxes. Debt, that includes student loans, credit cards, personal loans, things of that nature. And other, this one includes a decent amount for fun money. So that's like food, clothing, entertainment, but also has childcare, vacation. So this one's just another method. So again, not every method is going to work for every person. You have to do some trial and error and be like, all right, the 50/30 budget's fine, but it just doesn't really work for me. The zero-based budget's great, but it's a little tough. Make this budget right here. Then there's other ones I didn't even mention, but that's something that you can find. You can go on, there's budgeting apps. You can just go online and search budgeting methods, budgeting tools as well, where you type in your income and then your expenses, and it auto populates everything for you. So there's other resources out there. So again, you might not find the first budget on the first try. It doesn't mean to give up and never do a spending plan and to budget again. It just means you got to work harder to find what works for you. And I just want to throw this in towards the end of our seminar here. St. Louis Community Credit Union, we're partnering with Carrollton Bank to do a home buying series. So they're, friends that we work with Carrollton, and they're banking experts on the home buying process. And that includes, they go over down payment programs, the importance of credit, and just all the ins and outs of home buying. So if you're interested in that, there's a QR code right here. You can scan to RSVP. And also, I have sent the flyers out to Mimi and her team at Shed, so she'll be able to provide that to everyone. So again, if you want to learn more specific about home ownership and actually, the path and the procedure on that, please RSVP for this here. It's April 12th. It's a Saturday and it's from 10 to 12. Refreshments start at 10 and then the seminar starts around 10:30. So it's at our Benton Park location at 2820 Gravois, Benton Park, and it's 63118. But you would be able to get this flyer through Shed and Mimi
Yeah,
as well.
we will post that as well.
Perfect. Well, and right now, I just want to see if there's any questions or comments or anyone may have.
Oh, Tim, Mike, did you raise your hand? You had a question?
Yeah.
Can you come off mute? Thank you.
Yeah, Mimi, thank you. Appreciate it, Timothy. I'm asking, my daughter is a first year med school student who's incurring a lot of debt and trying to figure out how to save money and pay her debt at the same time. Um, I don't know where she is, but I know she's in the hundreds of thousands already. So what plan would you suggest in terms of her savings? What type of suggestions do you have for her? But she
Yeah.
doesn't really have anything right now. She's
Gotcha. So does she have a job right now, like part-time?
Yeah, she does. She's actually working in the hospital right now. She took a gap year to
Okay.
make a little money. And well, actually she's getting her master's at the same time in medical science.
Oh,
So but yeah, it's a medical transcriptionist job. It's not really a high paying job yet.
gotcha.
She's trying to get her clinical hours at the same time. But so she's not really able to save where we're paying for MCATs, MCAT
Yeah, all those
screening.
testing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if she's yeah, so I'd say it's kind of I'd say more she's in a holding pattern just because she's, hasn't reached, gone through all that stuff. And then once
Mhm.
she passes all that and gets the accommodations, then obviously she'll get a much higher income-based job and she can start repaying on that. But when it comes to those student loans, she shouldn't be paying anything while she's still in school. And then also if she needs to put like a not a forbearance, but if she can put like extended on, I can't remember the verbiage for it, but basically kind of hold off on paying student loans. It's a deferment, so that
Yeah.
could be an option. But also, I would say whatever money she's making, again, I would probably starting with a budget. I would say doing the highlighter game and seeing what expenses she does have now. So I would say I know she's not making a lot, but I would just start with her going over the last couple months budget and actually see what's kind of a need expense, like she needs to pay this if, let's say she's renting a home with some friends or things like that, that needs to get paid. But as see what those transactions look like. So again, maybe they're all really valid transactions. So at this point, she might not be able to save as much because she's just not bringing that income yet. But I would say again, just starting with that statement game, that highlighter game, and actually seeing where her money's going. So again, I look at my phone all the time for transactions, but that's like in the moment kind of thing. I don't, again, at the end of the month, you need to look at the whole monthly picture in the last couple months to get a good picture of where the money's going and how much is going. So I would honestly say at this point it's kind of a holding pattern, but I would say start with just going over her statements. And then, all right, once have that, I can send over like a fillable like spending plan guide. So you put your income in and all your expenses, and it'll show if you have money left over, if you're over, and then suggestions of how to correct that.
Yeah, she's so afraid right now about the debt. That's a big concern.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, with the student, yeah. So that's a lot of debt, but you know, the pro of is like, well, you're doing a very, you know, a income or a job that will have high income here very soon. So I know right now it's scary because again, it's thousands of dollars of student loan debt. But again, that she would be able to defer that or not pay that while she's in school, and then if she's once she's out, see how long she can defer it. And then once she's, you know, gets that job, then she can actually come up with the payment plan of whatever the minimum monthly payment is, but then also pay more if she's once she's bringing in an actual like higher income. So I would just tell her to look at her statements first, but be honest and be like, all right, is this, you know, a want transaction or is this a need transaction? And just go through everything because again, there might be like, oh, I have no money, but once you go through your statement, you're like, well, if you know, I actually could have 150 or $200 left over if I didn't do X, Y, and Z. So again,
Yeah.
I know it's scary. So it's again, and accountable is not, you know, is everyone's scared of that word accountability. But again, it's not like, you know, you're not doing it as a punishment. It's like it's going to help you. Again, it may be kind of like ripping off a band-aid first, but then once it's off and you're like, oh, all right, well, yeah, I needed to know this. So now I don't have to commit the same mistake or error every month. So again, it's kind of just taking accountability, but in a positive way. And again, small steps add up towards the end. So I would say just looking at the last month's statements is the first thing to do.
Okay. Thank you. That was extremely helpful.
Oh,
Appreciate
no
that.
problem. Oh, no worries.
Any other questions? And Reggie, did we have any slides that Cindy wanted to add to the conversation? Cindy Theory is a local University City realtor with Laura McCarthy Realty. And sometimes she adds, she's not on the call tonight, conflict with things with the grandchildren. But I didn't know if there were any slides that she wanted to add to the conversation.
No
Yeah.
additional.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, folks, we've just about hit the hour limit, so this was a good basic conversation. And I agree with Tim, not only for budgeting in terms of money, but for goals overall in our lives. And it's still early in the year that a lot of us are still probably still working on those New Year's resolutions and things, and following that SMART acronym will definitely be important towards reaching those goals. And if I may, Tim, I'd like to add one other step to that, the great Zig Ziglar always used to say. He was well known many years ago in his sales capacity. And he talked the same kind of concept about SMART goals, but he also added one extra step. And that was, he always said, now think about the things that might come up that could derail you, so that you can you got to plan for those
Yeah.
too. You know, okay, well, this could happen or that could happen, and how am I going to overcome that and stay the course? Because it's just like with anything, the goal is to make a plan and stick to the plan. And over time, it's like the interest on your account there at the community credit union. It compounds over time.
Yes,
Stay
it
the
does.
course. But you got to anticipate, yeah, that there's something's going to pop up. So how this might happen, or that has happened in the past, and how am I going to handle that to stay on track? So I thought that's the thing that really
No, I love that.
resonated with
That's
me.
great.
Yeah, especially with the SMART goals. Well, we're at our hour limit. I want to thank folks who were on. Remember, this will be posted within a day or so on the Shed website. So if you wanted to attend and you could not, it'll be there for you to just sit and listen to at your own leisure. Follow up with any of the opportunities that Tim mentioned at St. Louis Community Credit Union, on the calculators that are online, on the calendars that are online, to help you make the most of your money and begin telling it where to go instead of wondering where it went. Thank you for being with us tonight, and a special thanks to Tim Clavin from St. Louis Community Credit Union. Good night, everyone.
Glad to be here.
Good night, everyone.